This week on RSBANDB Update, Mod Pip speaks about monetization and the start of a new dialogue. We ask what comes next, and will anything actually change? We pick through the RuneScape Ahead livestream, unveiling new details from the JMods. Also, Update hits the big 1,000. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1000, recorded Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. RuneScape Conscription. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of RSBANDB Update. As you probably have seen on the title and in the thumbnail, yes, this is episode 1000. A big deal, apparently. I've been told to make it a big deal, and, you know, we got some... I'll just say I have some prepared remarks for the end of the podcast on that, but I also want to welcome back Tanis to the podcast for 1000 after a bit of a summer family and work hiatus. Welcome back.
Thank you, Shane. I'm glad to be back, and I wouldn't have missed 1000 for the world. Yeah,
and also some fun hot button issues this week too, right?
You know, there's always a hot button issue in this community, right? So we'll break the muck or whatever the hell we do.
Kick the tires, that sort of thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Also joining us, longtime fixture at RSBANDB and RSBANDB Update, and actual host of RSBANDB Update in 2015 is Earth. Also, our original Quest contributor back for Quest Weeks and member of Clan Quest and RSBANDB. Welcome, Earth.
Howdy.
You hosted the podcast in 2015, of course, and I guess later we'll talk about how all that went and how that forced you to actually take a break from RS and, you know, which maybe was
the most boring year in RuneScape's history.
But also, Parnassus, who you guys have been hearing for the last number of weeks, is also here this week because, you know, I just figured it'd be, you know, you've been here past few weeks. It'd be good to carry you on into 1000 and, of course, get your thoughts on the news of the week as we have been doing. So welcome back, Byrne.
Yeah, thank you, and also obviously, you know, back to be that sort of second placed Aussie to Tanis.
That's right. Of course, for people who are unaware of that, there was somebody in the community once who said that his favorite Australian was Tanis. Which, I mean, Tanis, based on how you speak, I don't necessarily know where the Australian accent's coming in.
I mean, it might be my criminal background.
Oh,
there you go.
But of course, before we get too far down the track, I do have to thank our experienced tier Patreon members, which is sold out for episode 1000. More on the offerings a little bit later, but this week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Bladecom, Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lounge, Mr. T., Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, The Naked Captain, Tim, and Truth Ray. You'll hear more about our Patreon offerings a little bit later in the show, but big, huge thank you to all these people, because without them, Update would not be possible. And, of course, full show notes can be found over at update.show. The Discord is at update.show/Discord, and the Friends chat can be found at BitsBytes. So with all that out of the way, that felt like a bit of a longer intro than normal, but I guess that's okay. Mod Pips speaks about microtransactions and the future of player value in RuneScape. Oh boy, this is dangerous. I feel like this is dangerous. A dangerous topic. Tanis, you go first since you're returning here.
Well, you know, when you said Mob Pips
the CEO
speaks about monetization, I couldn't help but think, but why? It's kind of a third rail, and I mean, I know that I've been away, but the last major monetization controversy that, you know, I can remember is the Hero Pass, and
coming up
I
on
thought
a year.
It was an odd time to wade in these.
It's a minefield. And I don't even know if Pips and CM, and everybody sees all the mines that are out in that minefield. Minefields are dangerous.
Unless, I mean, who knows? Is it 3D chess, and sometimes you have to.
Oh dear.
You have to show somebody. You literally have to show someone before they get it. Maybe that's happening.
Maybe. Earth, what's your read on this in terms of evaluating where monetization and whatnot goes?
I mean, I feel like they are openly talking about it, which have they done this to this extent before?
For monetization, no. And in particular, they said that they want to have community consultations on microtransaction offerings with the players.
I mean, that seems like a pretty big step to me.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think removing it entirely is. I mean, anyone who thinks that's definitely totally going to happen is probably deluding themselves a little bit.
I haven't seen an economic case for that to make sense yet.
But I mean, somehow drawing it back a little bit is. I feel like that's
maybe
more possible,
right? And yeah,
I'm gonna make a "don't tread on me" argument and be like, keep your hands off my treasure hunter and my bonds.
Okay.
And my
okay, Grandpa, let's get you back to bed.
No, but there is, and see, that's the thing. We don't necessarily know where the community stands on this, because the folks who do have an issue with monetization are a very huge portion of the vocal community that you find on social media and such. And the thing is that we, as regular players, don't necessarily have an idea of how widespread that view is through the community. Like, here's the thing. Is it a majority that there is a problem? Is there a majority consensus among the players that there is a problem, and did the survey return that? And if that's the case, and if the data says that, then yes, by all means, let's have this discussion. But before we, meander too far on down, Pern, what was your initial read on this post this week?
Yeah, I'm surprised that they would sort of go there, especially given what the last sort of MTX change was. But I mean, they've got to have the discussion. They've come up with their surveys and such. I mean, I don't care honestly about MTX. It's there, great. The game's 20 odd years old. It's not a charity. They have to make money somehow. If people want to buy XP and lamps and that type of stuff, let them. It's not hurting my game. As long as the money's flowing and the game can keep producing updates, I'm happy. I don't care. It's not like they're sitting there saying, here's a tier 100 weapon. It's going to cost you $100. that I'd have an issue with. But when it's just the stuff that they're doing, XP and that type of stuff, honestly, I don't care.
Right, and see, that's the thing, is that I don't necessarily know that the alternative outside of Treasure Hunter is something that people want. And to just pull from the exact wording here, they said, right now we're prioritizing understanding the various groups of players and views that were identified in the survey through a big mix of both deeper dive targeted surveys and focus groups with that. So obviously more work to be done. And this is what I would say, and this is how it was, phrased earlier this week, was that this is the start of the dialogue on this. Which I guess maybe that's the thing that we walk away from and take away from with this, is that I don't think we've ever had a two-way conversation back and forth about monetization. And that's what you said there, Earth.
Yeah.
So
we've never monetization outside of subscription has never been accepted. I feel like, right?
No, it hasn't.
Monetization outside of what?
Subscription.
Yeah. It's just
I thought you said conscription, and I was
Oh.
like, what? Hello?
You could script it to play RuneScape, young man.
I mean,
Oh.
which economy was it that was tied to the value of GP there for a
Venezuela.
while?
Venezuela.
What,
Was
for
that
real?
ever actually
Nah.
real, or was that just a meme?
No, there were actual people
Yeah,
in Venezuela
meme.
making a living playing OS a while
Oh
back.
well,
yes,
dude,
but its
that
effect
probably
on
happens.
the economy.
happens
Oh,
all-
no. Marginal at best.
Hey, I make my living playing the game.
There's a few people on Twitch that do it too. So I mean,
That's a different kind of
But-
clientele. But see, that's the thing. We had Squeal of Fortune, we had Bonds, we had Treasure Hunter with Alice. Now we have Treasure Hunter
I wish
without
you helped.
Alice. We've had Yak Track, we've had the HP. Which one of those has been best accepted? I venture it's the Bonds and the Yak Tracks, honestly.
and
Oh, I forgot Solomon's
Okay,
General Store as well, but
maybe there hasn't been this letter written to the community in this way where they're gonna do quote unquote consultations, but there has been discussions, and I can remember during the Mod Warden era of having those kind of open
it was that
discussions.
I
and back
remember
and
the
forth.
exact moment you're talking about. It was the live stream with him and Mod Mike on the couch, where Mod Mike was there, a few weeks before, the ultimate villain. Then Mod Warden comes in with him, a few weeks later, and turns him all around.
Mod
Right.
microtransaction.
But it was this combination of cosmetics and eliminating gambling, and there was a vision, and it was, we were doing okay for a minute. and then somebody messed with the recipe. I don't know. They thought it needed
removed
some
the,
salt or something, but it didn't
They
work.
basically removed all the challenges or all the things on Treasure
I
Hunter where you
know.
could see what you were going to get.
I do
Yeah.
love how the community sort of is screaming about, Treasure Hunter, it's gambling and all that, and then the same people were literally screaming and crying when they removed the Jewel Arena.
Oh, Tannis' thoughts on that?
Well, I have thoughts on that, but two, I just before I forget, I do want to speak to this, like, this fear that I think Pern represents, a good portion of the community that would fear a direct purchase of a tier 100 weapon, right? But let me tell you who the market is for that tier 100 weapon.
I'm listening. The market.
The market. It is not. It's not the PVM crowd. It's some PVM loser like me that's buying a 100 tier weapon just so that the power creep can push him over a Raxer.
So
right? That's
basically,
the real person buying it.
What you're saying is that you would be the market for something like a tier 95, tier 100 weapon with the flashiest skin on it that you could take with your Crypt Bloom and go bossing.
Because I couldn't.
So
I
what I'm
couldn't do
hearing
it
is it's okay if
otherwise.
Tannis does it, but not okay if someone else does it.
Yeah,
but
because
see-
I suck. So
that's-
like I'm not taking
Okay,
it away
so we're on
from
the same
anybody.
page. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But that's exactly what I mean. I mean, these people who do their YouTube videos and all that, who are sitting there complaining about Treasure Hunter all the time, and then they're the guys who are dropping hundreds of dollars on it anyway themselves. Very hypocritical. But they sit there and they go and hunt down these creatures, and they make a living off streaming all that type of stuff on Twitch. But they want the Treasure Hunter removed. But if it does get done, we are going to start seeing sort of more tangible items that are going to be useful in game, which is going to hurt their market because they're the ones out there bossing and earning their
But Pern,
bills GP.
Don't you think though that anybody with the ability to get that weapon would do that versus purchase it like I would, because I don't have the ability to earn it like that?
Hey, I buy I mean, I don't buy armor generally, but I will buy weapons on the GE because I can't go and farm them myself.
Okay, so I guess we're on
If
the same page.
Yeah,
Same page
exactly.
there. Same
So
boat.
if they bring out a T100 weapon that's gonna, it's gonna cost me money. Well, I'm gonna weigh it up. Well, am I just gonna save up my bills in game and get it, or am I just gonna go and drop $100 because I've got a spare $100 this month? Well,
Okay, so you guys.
I'm gonna buy the That's what that's exactly what I'm saying. It's the people who are screaming loudly about it, which are all these Twitch streamers and such, getting this faux outrage going among the community, among their followers. But if they do remove Treasure Hunter, they're the ones who are going to hurt.
Nobody has asked what comes next. And that's the thing about this, is that this post doesn't go into the economics of it. And one of the things that's immediately clear from it is that the post does actually say, you just have to kind of read between the lines a bit, but the post does do a decent job in actually explaining that any decision made needs to be offset by another one. And I don't think anybody has realized what that other thing is yet, and we don't have any ideas on that. And again, just like the survey, I don't necessarily know that, going down this path is a good thing to do until we know what that other option is.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thought of like when that survey first came out, and and I'm thinking pay more pay more to play RuneScape, just pay more for membership versus Treasure Hunter. I'm thinking no, and I can't imagine who would, but I guess people must, but. Like,
no,
seriously, does my XP mean that much to you? Like, that you would pay more in your membership? Just
especially
to keep
when
me
the
from
high scores,
getting some bonus?
The high scores are filled out. I mean, it's only when there's a new skill released every couple of years that anyone worries about the high scores.
And that's an interesting thing too on this, is that how much of what we have in Treasure Hunter in terms of, the amounts of XP that comes in, how much is our XP balance in game right now balanced around the XP lamps coming in? And is that part of the reason why we have people chasing, 110s, 120s, and 200 mils?
But, like Pern's saying, if your high score tables are frozen and have been frozen for I don't know how long.
Decades.
Necromancy,
it just doesn't. Well, right, necromancy. I mean, every new skill, and maybe new skills. Maybe you do a whole embargo during that time,
which they do.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, if you take away the high scores, then no one's XP affects anyone else's. So I have never understood why.
I feel like that's the most radical idea we've ever presented on the update. Take away the high scores.
No, not take away.
What?
Set aside the high scores.
Are you out of your damn mind?
Leave them for a month and that happens?
Set aside the high scores. Take them out of the
equation.
But that's exactly right. And the thing is, I mean, when a new skill comes out, you can't use bonus XP on those for 6 months. You can't use double XP. You can't use lamps. You can't use cinder cores. You can't use your prime gaming bombs and all that type of stuff. There is a lock on those, so it never ever affects that hunt for high score when those new skills come out.
And that brings up the question of integrity, because there are people I know who, are saying that RS3 has effectively been poisoned by this, and the only thing that, could get them to come back and try it is if there was, an absolute fresh start with no monetization, because seemingly everybody who's on the high scores right now has been, poisoned by the Treasure Hunter regime. And, that's the very far, far, far end of the spectrum, but it's a view that's out there.
Yeah.
Regime seems a little dramatic.
Well, I mean, mantra. idea.
Here's
Dramatic.
what I predict, and if Jagex actually planned for this, then they're freaking geniuses. And here, take my money, for another 20 years, Jagex. But I think people that are against MTX think that everybody is against MTX. I don't think they have any clue outside the bubble. And I think when the results come in, it's going to be mixed. And we're not talking a two-party system. There's going to be people all over the place. There's going to be a pocket of here and there, and people's going to be all over the map.
So basically what you're saying is there's going to be the exact group of people who want absolutely nothing to do with microtransactions. There's going to be some people who are okay with what we have now. There's going to be people who want more. There's going to be people who want to move away from gambling and chance, and there's going to be people who want, direct purchase, is basically what you're saying. Like, one thing we used to hear is that, hey, Jagex sell accounts that are, like level 80 across the board. Maybe that's a thing, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think they're going to have to show it in black and white numbers. Hey guys, you're not the only people that exist, because we have to serve everyone. We have been trying to, and they can even spin it saying we have been taking the middle ground approach. We have been trying to, you know what I mean? They could totally bullshit that, and no one know the difference. But I just don't think it's as cut and dry as players or some of the players that are against it think it is.
And it's not as egregious as
it's not as bad as other games.
Shock jocks.
Oh,
exactly.
God,
I
no.
mean, a lot of your Twitch streamers, I mean, they are that shock jock type of personality. They build that outrage to get reaction, and that's what you want in your followers. You want to get that sort of feral base that and listen to everything you say and scream from the heavens after you. But I mean, I laughed. I can't remember who it was, but a couple of years ago there was a big YouTuber who was carrying on something fierce about all the XP and such. And then there was a promotion that come up where you can get your 450 keys at half price or whatever, and he himself bought it and just was pumping it into all these skills to get himself up. And it's sitting there going, hang on a sec, you're sitting there screaming, complaining about it, but you're happy to drop your $400 or $500 to buy those keys when you're telling all your followers that it's a bad thing.
Spending their money on it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And see, that's the thing about this, and that goes back to what you said, Tanis, is that there's going to be so many different views on this that we don't necessarily know where the community lands as it is. And I have to wonder with this if Jagex is ready for this. Like, as an example, I called it a minefield. Does the people involved in leading this discussion know how big the potential is there for this to blow up in their faces? Like, for example, I assume people like Mod Pips and the numbers people know precisely about the reality behind this. But when it comes to getting down to the way that CM is going to handle this, the way devs might talk about it, and even the players, do they know how big of a minefield this is? Because I see a very real world here where we have a subsequent survey from this, and the findings come back that nothing is going to happen. And this just throws away all of the goodwill that has been building up since April and May, which they would do well to carry on into 2025 at this point in time. So I'm just wondering, is this really the path that they need to be going down on right now? Because it feels awfully dangerous. I haven't seen proof personally from me yet that their comms team and their PR team is up for the battle that's ahead on this.
I think it's a discussion that does eventually need to happen, but you're right, this isn't the time for it. We're just getting back from a big problem back in sort of October, November last year. We had a very, very bland first quarter. This roadmap is just getting everyone excited and optimistic about the game again. I don't think it is the time to have this discussion, but it's their company. They obviously, there may be reasons they're doing it, but yeah.
And it always goes back to, I forget what era this was in tennis, but we basically said you have to have like a press secretary running this operation. And I don't necessarily know if they're at this point yet where they can pull this off, because it's got to be making sure messaging is on point, answering questions before they come up, and pacing and leading community.
But you can't do that messaging if you can't do it if you don't have it, right? And I don't think they have that.
Right.
I think I'm hoping that the past isn't an indication of the future, because this is pure speculation. But I mean, I have reasons to think it. I'm fearful that if there is someone that realizes what kind of a minefield it is, it's probably Doom. But as in the past,
like Mod Doom, the CM.
Yeah, but
unfortunately, he no longer works on RS3.
When did he leave?
He got promoted to senior community manager and is working on unannounced project.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, I didn't tell you that, did I?
Oh shit! Okay.
He's still at Jagex, and he made a brief appearance in the roadmap, but I believe we're in the very careful hands of Mod Yui and Mod Huli. So
okay,
Mod what?
Mod Yui.
How the hell do you spell
Dewey
that?
and Louie?
Y-U-E-Y. Mod Yui.
It's like named after the insurance company here in Australia.
All right. Okay, I'll give you that pronunciation. I was doubtful.
And then to go to you, Earth, here, like, what's the economics behind this? Like, how do you replace Treasure Hunter and make sure you bring in the same amount of money at the end of the day? Because I think that's what the final decision on this is, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you've got to replace that revenue, but I mean, I don't know without seeing how much each part of it. I know they have the data, like people who,
and they used to tell us on the financials, but they don't anymore.
Keys is this much. People who buy bonds, this much. Like, without any sort of breakdown, I don't know.
And that's the biggest clincher at the end of the day on this. And we get back to that original discussion of what do you end up with at the end of it all, right? So,
I mean, I'm still just over here feeling mildly guilty about paying $5 a month.
Well, you could buy Premier Club if you want to give them a bit more.
I do buy Rune Metrics. That's my way of justifying it to myself.
Yeah, okay.
Because I mean, it's been almost 20 years for me. 20 years in a couple months, actually. Oh God. Like, I've gotten my money's worth.
And you're still on that $5 plan. And,
yeah.
I wonder...
I think it's fair. I think it's reasonable for me to do that.
My question is that in terms of this, player value survey, what about the people who feel that they're not getting enough from Premier Club right now? Because I did see that also bubble up in the community this week.
Have they seen the amount of content this game has?
Yeah, that's
I have
fair.
Premier
but-
Club, and I think I'm getting more than enough.
Premiere used to have more though, dude.
Well,
I
it did,
think.
but I mean,
It used to have the Yak Track
Yeah.
Gold Pass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did used to have.
I've never had Premiere, so I don't actually
Steve.
know anything about it.
the first year was best, where we got a free legendary pet and the 2,000 rune coins.
Yeah, and to make you feel better there, Earth, you're paying $5 a month, but I think when the Christmas Premier Club sales come around, and you average that price out per month, that averages out to about $6.67 a month. Last year's price, so a little bit more than you're paying, but still not too much. Not too much more. If you buy the entire deal on that. So now,
More,
what was that?
I could have swore it was more than that.
No, it was $6.67.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the end of
For you
the
Aussies out there, that's American dollars.
yes, American dollars.
Why would we ever use any other currency?
Your question is as good as mine on that.
God,
But
you are such an American bootlicker.
oh, we haven't heard that in a while on the show. But I think there's value, and this is something we came up with as a team, is that there's value in talking to the players about the value of RuneScape and how to add more to it. But the reality is that until you understand that full cross section of the player base, you really can't make any decisions, and that includes people in this. And this is something actually I think that was expanded out based on what Jagex said, is that you have to include also the people who don't have the knee-jerk reaction to monetization.
You should only listen to people who don't have knee-jerk reactions. Sorry.
And we're also moving. It almost feels like, too, just in general, when people like say that they don't, they're against MTX. I don't know. It seems like we're in this era that another group is going to say, "Well, we love it."
Would they though? Like where would they have the?
Yeah, dude.
Have the
half
ability
of,
to do this.
Yeah, 50% people like the acolyte. I mean, yeah, no, there's no taste in the world anymore. What can I say?
Oh, is that the Star Wars series that was
Yeah.
canceled? I saw a headline about that this week.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like,
Okay.
no matter what it is, it seems like you can find half the people are going to be for it, half will be against.
Right, and the question is, where do those opinions come from? Are they valid? Are they, just not, like rage-induced off of social media? And, I think the biggest thing, in addition to the mines that we talked about in the proverbial minefield, is that what happens if this consultation, happens, and then we wind up in a place where nothing comes from it? What does that say about Jagex? That's another thing that's out there, I think, too, in the minds of a lot of people.
A positive spin and saying, "Hey, with the feedback we got, we are in pretty much the right place, so we're going to leave it as it is."
Then you have Hero
Yeah,
Pass
that would be-
2.0, and then we're up the river again for another 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah, just bring back your
Yay!
I mean, maybe they gotta make an announcement like this at RuneFest. That way, then people won't be forced to.
And maybe
punch each other.
that's what they are. Yeah, maybe that's what they are looking at doing and getting this discussion out there now for something to be announced there.
I would just love to know what the data was that drove the timing of this now.
My
Why
sense
it
is
was
that
now.
My sense is that people probably wrote in on the 2024 content survey, remove microtransactions or something.
Yeah.
That would be my guess on that. Because that's how the timing
I
lines
don't
up.
care. I was neutral on all that stuff when I did it.
So,
I know, it just seems like maybe it's pressure in people's minds, so ranked higher or something, because I can't ever imagine it like not getting a good score on a survey, right? Like it's always just gonna be hated universally, always.
Yeah,
It seems like,
and maybe it's
on
just a new
survey like
mantra
that.
of talking freely and openly with the players about this. Like Mod Timbo basically said this week is that for the right-click examine on Group Iron Man, he basically just threw his entire design out there and let the players, talk about it, which is something he hasn't done for a while on that. So, any last thoughts on this before we move on? I feel like we've covered the very key issues on this in terms of how dangerous it could be, who's being served, who might be the quiet clients in the room, so to speak.
I mean, it's always going to be a sort of a hot topic, and
Quiet client, that's good.
What was that?
Quiet client is good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, because I mean, there's people who just play on mobile 8 hours a day at work, do their 3 or 4 treasure hunter keys, and are 100% okay with the way things are now. That's a quiet client. So
yeah.
Janice, Spurn, anything else?
Nope.
No. And I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to the question: can you make more people come and buy memberships and play your game and buy whatever replaces Treasure Hunter than what we have right now? That's the equation that needs to be balanced if Treasure Hunter is going to be removed or scaled back. And I think, and I hope that people are aware of that. And if not, well, we could have some interesting times ahead. Doesn't everybody just love living through major historical events in the 2020s?
Yeah.
In that spirit, I think we might be able to add a third item to the constants, the things, your death, taxes, and microtransactions.
And it would also go by a general theme that this podcast established almost 1,000 episodes ago. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Can we ban you?
No, because I got to thank some Patreon supporters right now, because without these people, RSBANDB update would not be possible. So this week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Bladecom, Brayton K., Chilbura, Daniel W., Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Mr. T., Pernasius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirtpants, Tabby, Targaryen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to everybody as we head into episode 1000 here. As we talked about, folks who are subscribed by the time this episode goes out and a member of the RSBANDB Update Insider tier or higher will be receiving a special card if you elect to share Patreon shipping info with us, and our experienced tier members are getting a little bit more special mail out. And I actually have somebody on the podcast here this week who knows what that is, so Tanis, please don't spoil it. Nobody has guessed it yet. Based on what you've seen, what can you tell the listeners without spoiling it about what's going out? I know it's a difficult thing.
It is
a gift.
There is only a select few humans that will have the privilege of having such an item.
That was the worst hint ever.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it without, like...
Giving it away?
I was going to say, like... I don't know.
You'll be over the moon when you receive it. That's a good way of putting it, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
You get it? You get it now?
Yeah. I was trying to think of something.
It's a bobblehead of
Yeah.
Shane and Tannis on Xanaris.
Oh, that's a good
Oh
idea.
my god!
We'll put that one out for next year.
Yeah.
Oh god. Also, can we talk about? Can we take
Can we get it? Can I have an Earth bobblehead? I want one of Earth and
Instead of
Chief
a
Snake on my
bobblehead.
desk.
Only if it just shakes its head at you, because that's mostly what I do whenever I talk to you.
Instead of a bobblehead, could we get one of those? Remember when you was a kid and they had those little punching bags that are like clowns with the nose, and you pop it and it goes down and bounces
With
back
the sandbag
up.
in the bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Just a
of the
shame.
co-host?
See, I already do that enough verbally.
Oh boy. But anyways, thank you to our wonderful Patreon members. You mean the world to us. If you want to hear more about what this is about, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB. For as little as $1 a month, you get a mention in the show notes each and every week. You get access to an entire back catalog of approaching 75 monthly bits. This month, it looks like we're going to be doing another quest tier list, this time on desert quests, which is a timely topic, of course. And, of course, you also help fund our RSBANDB updates. So big, huge thank you to everybody involved in our Patreon program. We also have our VIP tier, where for $3 a month, you get a chat channel, mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and access to high-quality stereo versions of the show. And also, of course, for the Insider tier, you get a shout-out each and every week on the podcast, and you also get the RSBANDB Update Christmas card every December, in addition to the clips that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. But big, huge thank you to everybody who has supported us and continues to support us. Those cards and item will be going out next week. Cards go out to Insider members, and the item goes out to the Experienced tier members. So big, huge thank you to everybody for supporting us as we move beyond episode 1000 of this podcast. It all means the world to us. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So let's talk a bit about RS Ahead, and in particular the live stream that we had this week on it. But because we haven't had a chance yet to touch base with both you, Tannis, and Earth in relation to how you guys are feeling about this roadmap, Tannis, what's your favorite thing? What are you most looking forward to in this roadmap going to mid-2025?
Oh man, so there's a couple, and it's hard to just pick out one. But I'm curious and looking forward to the seasonal event, the one that looks hollow,
Harvest Hollow.
Harvest Hollow, and then skilling's my thing. So I'm down with the skilling updates. Everything that's going to be brought up to 110. Looking forward to that. But most importantly, looking most forward to expansions, baby.
Well, it's not an expansion. It's a new area expansion.
It's a new area expansion. Does it say expansion?
It says expansion, but I'm reading this as it's going to be a new area, and it's not going to be like expansion like Metaphos.
It's going to be an expansion, but it's not going to be an expansion?
It's going to be a new area.
Which is it, Obama?
What do you say? You want to go west like old school did? You want to finish the Eastern lands? You want to do something else?
Whatever we get.
As long as it's not another Anachronia.
Yeah, as long as we don't navigate like Anachronia. But whatever we get, I think there's no way that you don't get some kind of a quest or mini quest. It's going to be introduced. It's going to have stuff there. So it's an expansion.
Okay.
And I don't know where it's at. Just nowhere white. I want to see it better. Oh.
All right, fair enough.
No, like Relic Frozen Land.
And you're talking about that mainly from the accessibility point of view.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Earth?
I am really interested to see the new desert quests, and then I think 110 rune crafting will be interesting.
Uh-huh. And my question with 110 rune crafting is why does the hype art with this have the Stone of Jazz there when that was blown away, right?
Well, I'm gonna make my own.
Oh God. Yeah, and
Stone of Earth.
oh God. When it comes to the desert quest, have you done where are you at in terms of, old school desert questing? Have you done Beneath Cursed Sands and whatnot?
Let me look.
Because
you told me about that the other day.
Yeah, we actually did that one this weekend, and it was interesting.
I have all the requirements. I think it was next on my list.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think we'll go into this in terms of the lore section of the Q&A that we're going to talk about. But I think that the fact we're moving from that Bill Rock beat to the desert and what people probably want in terms of finishing storylines is a good thing in the grand scheme of things here. So. Perrin, any other thoughts from you? I know we went over this.
No, I pretty much covered it all last week. Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, I mean, finishing off the Eastern Lags, I'll be happy with, but I really, really hope we get Zaya.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, with that, let's dive into the live stream that happened this week. They put out a 3-hour live stream here, and boy.
3 hours and 20 minutes.
What?
It was 3 hours and 20 minutes.
I don't think we were watching the same thing because the YouTube video is only 2 hours and 55 minutes long.
Oh, well, it looks like Shane missed out on some content there.
No, I thought it did like Netflix did, where it took down the time. So I'm 33 minutes into it at the moment, so I added the 33 to 255. So
Okay.
forget what I said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just can't read. Got it.
I thought it counted down as it was counting up, like Netflix does.
Like a damn fool.
Yeah, that's well.
Not
yeah,
its fault. Everything's
I
backwards
am a
down
fool.
there. It is. Everything is upside down.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
so
it.
they actually opened up this live stream with a discussion involving Mod Marcos, and he mentioned, of course, that they were going to talk about the monetization survey and whatnot. I think the thing that made me, that definitely caught my eye the most is that when I opened up this live stream, I saw here he was still listed as executive producer, which, I mean, that's welcome here.
Very much so.
I had the same reaction. I'm like, wait a minute. What is he still doing here? Oh, which I'm happy about, right? Like, we were like, yay, Mod Marcos, but I thought he was like...
I thought he was just a temporary loner from old school.
Yeah.
They obviously haven't found the right person to replace him.
Yeah. That job listing for executive producer is still up on the website, so they're still looking. But the May player voice survey drove what we see in the roadmap here, and that starts off with one of the loudest things that was mentioned in that survey was that there was quite a lot of feedback about finishing existing storylines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gnomes.
That's cool. Gnomes.
Yeah.
Gnomes.
Okay.
Elemental Workshop.
Gnomes.
And I'm going to jump to this right now, since both Gnomes and the Elemental Workshop came up here. This was from the lore section, but when you look at the desert, the Gnomes, the Penguins, and the Elemental Workshop series, those are pretty much the unfinished, 5th Age storylines that are out there. Jack said that the Gnomes have their biggest elephant in the room being Arpasandra, in that you really can't do the Gnome finale without building the city of Arpasandra, so you need to be willing to commit to that and do that to do the Gnomes.
New area expansion. Come on, Gnomes. Come on, Gnomes.
But see, here's the thing.
Gnomes.
Arpasandra is supposed to sit east of Valedia, but west of that of like Ardoyan. So it's supposed to be in that mountain pass. That's how the lore had been interpreted on that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yep, I'm fairly certain. I remember looking that up for one of the episodes that we did not too long ago.
Oh, it is under it. That's what it says.
Yeah. They also said
Interesting. So
that-
it's gotta be like...
Skillinor, it's magic, right? Like, we'll just say it's in a pocket gnome verse. And, hey, and they're gnomes. They
Or it
invent
could be
shit,
really
so,
big.
Yeah.
they also said that Elemental Workshop needs to be done because it needs to be the vessel for the right developer, because you can't just decide a random dev to make puzzles. And
That's how we got Elemental Workshop.
yeah. And penguins really aren't ever going to be
Wow,
finished.
you took that one really well, Shane.
No, it's because there's only a few
Trying
people.
to get a rise out of you.
No, there's only a few people I think who could make a good Elemental Workshop quest that I know of personally, and none of them work at Jagex right now. So, but I realize how that sounds. But obviously, following from that, you have the situation where they don't want to assign that presently. And penguins, they said you really can't just finish the penguins because it's like James Bond. Is the James Bond series ever done?
Yeah, I wouldn't ever. I wouldn't want the
Austin
penguin.
Powers killed it.
But it wasn't a time to kill, so he didn't.
Boo!
Oh.
Boo!
Anyways,
Get off
I
the
appreciated
stage.
anyways, back on track. Getting to the key bits and bobs here. They said the 2025 key priorities are that they want to deliver on the promise of roadmaps and deliver good content in the meantime and have an open dialogue with the players. That's their vision going forward on this. And I guess that's how we get the monetization survey. Have an open dialogue with the players.
Yeah, I just hope that doesn't stop, dude.
Yeah. And
This sounds great.
it really does.
Yeah.
Because what they're talking about in terms of the promise on roadmaps is make it so that what you see on the list actually arrives. And while you're doing that, make sure you can have little updates thrown in, like the Fourth Conjure, the Necromancy Slayer helmet update, and all those other little things that we're not talking about yet for 2025. So they are also working longer term than a content roadmap on certain things, like the question of an API and plugin system. And they're presently exploring something like this. And I actually opened up the notes here to comments from our Patreon members, and BladeCom basically just said when. Like, if you're talking about this, what is the time frame for this, and when would something, like this happen? And the sense that I got is that if you're looking at the plugin level, they would effectively wait for Old School to roll out their plugin API system before doing something similar for RS3. And for people unaware of what this means, is that the RuneLite plugin has plugins associated with it that basically do everything under the sun, and Jagex is looking to add support for those in the official client. As shocking as that would be for RS3, right?
Cheat codes.
But why not? Like, Elder Scrolls has done it.
Mods, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they are, as I said.
Yeah, I feel like
they will
Elder
look at it.
Scrolls is unfair comparison because it's a single player
Why?
game, right?
Online?
Yeah, ESO has mods and
I
plugins.
did forget it. I was thinking like Skyrim and the Creation Kit.
I mean, I was
Okay.
thinking of the online. That I forget what it's called, but I have maps that show me like everything, like my crystals. Just there's so many plugins.
Harvest maps.
You can use. Yeah, harvest maps. The Sky Shard maps. Like, I don't know. Like, but I have it for ESO.
Right, and see, that's the thing, is that, could RS support an ecosystem like that? And is that something the players would be interested in? And, maybe it's something definitely that's a bit exploratory right now, but I think if old school does it, and if we're, in effect, following the path that old school has taken to do what has made it successful, then I think that's a natural, ebb and flow. Because I know there's lots of plugins over on the OS side that I'd like to have on RS3. It's just a question of, if the game being as different as it is from the Java game that was ported in 2007 and became old school, if that could, be retrofitted to have such a system and have it work easily. So
I'm just excited because I could envision someone writing a plugin that say was like a chat narrator or something.
Yeah.
And have it work so well that Jagex is like, oh, well, we could make this native and end up, getting an accessibility update out of that. Like I could see that kind of stuff. It could be like a way to kind of see little quality of life fixes. What do people really need? What they use? What actually would make it better by having it open like that?
Yeah, and you're specifically talking about the text-to-speech plugin for RuneLite.
Yeah.
Yeah, which exists, and I think that was probably one of the things when you took your initial look at OS that was probably the most interesting to you.
Yeah, very much.
Because it basically made, like quests and whatnot, something that makes it so it's not a chore for you to engage with them.
Mm-hmm.
The next big question is, what has Mod Marcos learned from old school that he has applied to RS3? And he said that there needs to be a steady cadence of a variety of content, with a focus on community interaction and empowering the team to work with the community, as well as being transparent about what's being worked on and getting feedback early on that. And I think that's the biggest thing, is steady cadence of a variety of content, is that I feel like for a long time we were just very, focused on... It didn't feel... I don't know how to describe it. Do you know what I'm going for with this, Tanis? Or either
It felt like
of you?
they just needed an update. Any update, get an update. That's when we were lucky enough to get an update.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking this was particularly emblematic in the Fort and what happened after Elder God Wars, right?
Yeah.
As in, there would be like big headline pieces of content, like a quest or something, like Twilight of the Gods or Zamorak, but the content that you got would come around those, and it wouldn't necessarily be related to that, if that makes sense. Whereas if you compare it to things like the Armored Phantom on the way, first week of September, and the Necromancy Slayer gear, those are definitely, I'd say, probably smaller classic pieces of content.
Mm-hmm.
For the new area expansion, it was one of the top responses as well on the survey. It's still very early days for the project. They're working on the high-level design elements and will be involving the players throughout the process. So I'm betting that new area expansion beat out things like new skill.
Because people were never mad at expansions. They were mad at Minifield. Guys.
And people like their new areas to explore.
Yeah. They just didn't like that one.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Well, the way it was initially done, it's for mid-level players, it is a great spot now. But
then topic of discussion went to the skilling boss. The skills for that will be mining, crafting, divination, and agility.
Oh. Whoa, okay.
It sounded quite interesting, though.
The rewards will be new skilling offhands for rune crafting and divination, a couple of amulets, a ring, and a new god book.
Okay,
and they're moving away from stat reductions on this, and they hope that the players will be able to choose their own level of intensity for it. So if you're kind of more laid-back skiller, it'll be something you can do, they say. But also, if you want to hyper-optimize it like a boss instance, you're going to be able to do that. And it comes down to skilling resource management, like stackable versus unstackable items. And they see actually inventory management as being a core aspect of skilling.
Okay. Well, I mean, in this game, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Hard to argue.
And then I think it was Mod Shrike that said, skilling, what is skilling in RuneScape? And that's a fairly existential question that was asked during the creation of this boss. Which we were just around this path last week on our skill expression monthly bit, weren't we?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of that. So I don't know. It's skilling boss number 2 for RS3. We'll have to, I guess, wait and see where all this lands. I don't think you can directly copy something like Temperos or Wintertoad from OS and have it go over the same way.
Well,
on that.
Officially number 2, but
yeah,
unofficially
you're talking
number
about
3.
Big Game Hunter, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And nobody should have no one should die at work, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll have to get Ocean involved, and that's not cool.
And that's what they say, moving away from stat reductions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, also will require Ode to the Devourer, which requires Requiem for a Dragon. So you're basically going to need the entire Fort series to play this content. How do we feel about that?
Love it.
I mean, it's rough. I'm sorry, Charlie, but yeah, I mean, it's a lot of quest content.
It really is. It really is.
You know, here's the thing, though. I've never been opposed to things like this being behind quest content because I feel like quest rewards are shit, and this is kind of the best kind of reward you can get out of a quest is some kind of new content.
Yeah.
Unlocked.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Fort series wasn't really that bad. I mean,
it was polarizing for some people.
It was polarizing, but I mean, they weren't difficult. I mean, there was some...
The Last Raptor. I mean,
yeah, I know. I mean, some of the lore that was in it was on the nose, but I mean, the thing is, the quests themselves were not really that difficult quests.
Yeah. What were you going to say there about Fort or something?
I mean, I still don't get why it was so polarizing. It's just it was there.
Yeah, fair
enough. It happened.
Can I interest you in a group Iron Man?
Can I interest you in pronouncing it correctly?
I still don't know what I'm saying wrong with this, but we got a preview this week of
Iron.
We got a preview this week of the Iron Enclave.
Oh my god.
That was worse. I didn't hear it the first time.
That was worse.
Okay, Iron Enclave. We got a preview.
There we go. Good job.
We got
the answer's no, by the way.
We got a preview of the Iron Enclave this week where you'll be handling all of your group Iron Man stuff. Janice, where are you at with group Iron Man?
I mean, it's something that I flirt with the idea of. I mean, I would probably be down for. I wish it was contained in like a seasonal type thing, like
right, so that there was an end date.
Yeah, like a fresh start. You know, that would push it over the edge for me for sure. I mean, I still might do it if everyone does it, but
if they did do it as a seasonal, how long would you want it for though? Because there's
2
so
to 3
much
months
content
probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fresh start was a good time. I mean, it was just enough.
See, I don't think that would be long enough in something like a group Iron Man to really, get all the content and such that you want to enjoy and get through.
Yeah.
Well, that might be fair. So, like, what is a normal league time?
A normal what?
Like a league.
It went from the last week of October to the second week of January. The last one.
So that's about the same then.
Yeah.
That's about the same. Okay. So yeah, but I get that what Pern's saying, and especially with Iron Man, because it's going to take you longer.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's going to take yeah. I mean, you'd have to really do a minimum of 6 months, and I would even say that's a bit short for actual Iron Man content where there's no real trading and such. But I mean,
Are you still in for it?
well, I mean, everything I've read it's really got me interested, which really annoys the crap out of me.
We also got clarification with this that Hardcore Group Iron Man is probably not coming for this release. It can't be done right now, and they do want to do it eventually. I know that was something we talked about on launch week, is that Hardcore was something that some people had wanted.
That would be kind of funny to just watch a whole freaking group get wiped. Well, there goes the Avengers.
Just start DDoSing everyone as there.
See you next year, guys. The right-click examine blog was the entire design. Timbo, of course, likes sharing those. The first thing they're changing based on the feedback is that the group milestones capes won't be a thing, and they'll be replaced by something else. There'll still be rewards, though, for things like group max and group quest. So there won't be the capes, but there'll be something. And they're presently aiming to release this in late October or early November. So
I'm a cape whore, though. I kind of like the capes.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, nothing beats the allure of, world's first quest point cape, though. I'm not saying that's a thing our group would be doing, but it's certainly an interesting thing to think about for a group.
If we were doing it, which we could do.
No, you're. This is a thing I haven't talked to you about yet, but we need to start pushing to organize a group in Clan Quest to do world's first quest point cape in this.
What I want to know though is.
I don't think you and I should be a part of that. I don't think we can know life hard enough for that. But I know we have people who can. Yeah.
I want to know, when the quests get unlocked, though, is it unlocked for the entire group, or does each
person would need to unlock their own quest for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that gets very interesting for things like Endgame and Extinction and whatnot. So. Moving on to lore, this is where Mod Jack joined the couch, and these segments became longer.
Naturally?
Yeah, naturally, eh? We love it when Mod Jack appears, don't we?
Yes.
He said, in relation to the return to the desert quest line, there was a plan for Ode to the Devourer. The survey said something in particular about what players wanted, and that was that strong reaction to finish the old storyline. So what Mod Jack did is he called up, and those were his exact words, he called up Mod Rowley and basically said, if I give you 3 quests and a boss, can we finish the desert storyline? Then he went to Mod Zura, and Zura said, I thought you were going to say that, and that was apparently the history about how we moved from Bill Rock to the desert quest line. How do you feel about that, Earth? Putting Bill Rock aside for a bit and the Zamorakian stuff we were talking about.
Meh. I just want the gnomes, man.
Yeah.
I'm simple, man.
You want some little people? Some gnome children?
Yes, I would like more of the gnome child.
Ode to the Devourer will provide additional context for those who don't remember the desert quests, and they have plot points set up for Bill Rock that they can pull on in the future. Now, when it comes to the question of 5th Age or 6th Age, due to the way Twilight of the Gods worked, there's not much of a difference between the two at this point in time for whether something is 5th or 6th, so that makes it so that they can handle things like the desert quest line here. And the example being is that the desert finale would be a lot different if Saradomin was still running around compared to how things are right now. And on the topic of Zaros and Erebus, there's potential plot points that they have, and they're waiting to be used when the time is right. And there's a reasonably detailed view of where Zaros is and what's going on with that. That's delicious.
To hear about that.
I do love.
Sweet.
Yeah. That's the bit I was most excited about when I heard about that part.
Right, because he just
He
disappeared.
just disappeared. Yeah. He just disappeared. Bang. Poof. It was like, what?
And Char as well, right?
Yeah, Trucker's Char went in after him. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's all these unfinished questions of those sorts of things, I think, that maybe we need to start
business.
We need to start lobbying for now after the desert is done, is figuring out the Zaros and Erebus question, Tony, Char, just what happened there. I know it's kind of more cosmic on the level than they've been trying to do, but let's be real, like you're saying, that's our unfinished business of the Sixth Age, I think.
Yep.
So.
Well, he just over there getting swole.
Maybe.
You know?
Maybe. We don't know what it's like there. We just had a picture of it in
on,
Extinction
you know.
there.
Mm.
And I do want to clarify, I know I made it sound like there's nobody inside Jagex who could do Elemental Workshop, but what I meant by that is that I think it was the one and only JMod. Oh god, what's his name now? Who did those quests? Mod Melkor, I want to say?
Thought it was Mod Masochist. Oh wait, no, that wasn't.
No. Mod. God damn it! What was his name? He streams on Twitch every other week. Oh boy, I'm blanking on his name right now. I'm gonna find this, and I'm gonna
come on, workshop groupies. Where you at?
What does that mean?
I thought Reed and Fern would be all over this. I don't like the damn quest.
Developers of Elemental Workshop 1 is Mod Dylan. Elemental Workshop 2 was Mod Dylan.
Okay, so it was Mod Dylan, but there was also somebody else who owned this in the past.
Oh, it's not
Mod Dylan again for 3 with quest help by Mod Osborne. And 4 was Mod Dylan, again with quest help by Mod Rowley.
Okay. Jagex Elemental Workshop. This is how we Google things here.
Good job, Shane.
What's his name? I literally can't remember his name.
You'll remember when we log off.
I probably will. Like, what's his
name? It always
name?
happens to me. I'll be thinking of something all day, and then I'll go to bed, and it'll just pop into my head as I'm laying down.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll continue on with the podcast in the meantime, and move on to the skilling side of it. So, continuing on with skilling, why were specific 110 skills chosen? They chose those skills in terms of woodcutting, fletching, crafting, and rune crafting, so that they can make high-level weapons and armor for the combat skills.
There. Now be happy.
I know. But again, they're going to be most likely unaugmentable.
But does that matter for the average player? And this is the thing that I think maybe was missed in last week's show, but I think we tried to hit on it, was that there's a very average RS player out there.
People.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, just throwing a Demon Slayer perk or, an Undead Slayer perk.
It helps.
The Prosper perk, I mean, I love my Prosper perk on things. It's just, they're not necessary, but you want them because, they give a little bit of something, and it makes you feel like you're being a little bit more efficient than you sort of really are.
Sometimes I don't even like using augmented equipment because I feel like it costs too much money and I don't need it.
Oh, just in terms of upkeep costs or something to that effect?
Yeah. Well, yeah, just the energy. and stuff, and I'm like,
Okay.
I'm doing Slayer. I don't really need
And
it.
see, that's the thing that came out in the comments. One of the guys who was commenting on the show last week basically said is that in the discussion about who this is for, you guys kind of got to this point, but it's for somebody like my dad who just, hears all the people raving about like the tier 95, tier 100 Zuck sword, right? But in reality, they don't need that level of a sword. Something they can smith themselves is going to get them the bulk of the way there.
Oh, of course, it's just slower,
yeah.
and it's.
So,
But I mean, they also repair degrade to broken. So I don't know if it's just a GP cost, or whether you have to use more primal bars to repair them. But
to repair them, and this was something I was trying to do after the show, because I put mine on, to model it for the thumbnail. You can just repair them on the armor stand in your house and then convert them to burial after that.
okay, that's
not that big of a deal.
if it's just a GP cost, then
it's
that
fine.
makes it better.
And that was actually addressed in the patch notes this week too, because there was a discussion of the cost and whatnot about whether or not it was too much.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, GP. I mean, GP's so easy to make in this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's not. I don't know.
No, that's right. I mean, I much prefer just a GP sync rather than having to make more bars and such to repair it, like with your masterwork. Where you have to make extra masterwork.
I got it.
Yep.
Mod Doctor.
Mod Doctor. I don't think I remember him.
Yeah. He took over the Elemental Workshop series after Dylan left and had the blueprint for the next 3 Elemental Workshop quest lines.
3?
Yeah.
Jesus, come on.
Well, come on, Mod Doctor, let's get him out.
But he doesn't work there anymore.
Oh, come back, Mod Doctor, and finish what you're supposed to do, and then quit.
Mod Coroner.
No, but see, that's the thing. If somebody just has the choice of, like a tier 90 weapon that's going to cost them 200 mil, right? Versus the sword we got last week, or the sword, or the wand and bow, what have you, that's going to come with fletching and rune crafting. Which one you're going to choose.
Oh, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So, Earth, we figured out what JMod that was. It was Mod Doctor.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that in a million years.
But on the skilling side here, in terms of the skilling profitability rework, this is something that they said is going to happen. They're going to allocate a project to it. They don't know whether it'll be tweaking or adding something completely new to it. And I mean, I guess, Tanis, what would you say? Would you like to tweak drop tables, or would you like to add something new, or what do you think? Somebody says, let's work on skilling value. What do you do?
I don't know. I don't know why, but I feel like just adding something wouldn't do it.
And that's kind of where another comment in our notes came from Lemon. Things like skilling profitability are often at odds with an iron playstyle, like the accidental fletching and firemaking ranged ammunition, because it was hard to make initially, which brought profit to it, but the changes to allow Iron Men to access it in a more easy way basically crashed the profitability from that activity. So,
yeah, and we shouldn't. I mean, I'm sorry. Hey, I love Iron Man. Good on people. I play that type of style myself, but I'm sorry, we shouldn't be hurting the main game for someone who wants to play a limited version of the game, where they're limiting themselves on things.
Because that's their challenge, right? Like
exactly.
Their challenge is to do it differently. Like that's part of it, but
I mean, you look
And
at magic logs at the moment. I mean, 300 GP or whatever it is. You've got to start moving these things off drop tables.
yeah,
Go look at gold bars.
Oh no, what's happening with them?
I think it was gold bars.
They're shooting up. They're about 2,900 GP in value. What the hell's happening there?
Orders,
Okay,
I guess.
maybe.
Illinois going
'cause
back
they
on the gold standard.
Oh, I would love that.
Yep. GP actually will mean gold piece now.
No, I kid, but this entire skilling section was interesting because you mentioned profitability, and one of the things that came up with that was rebalancing drop tables and the skilling supply angle on that. What Jack said is that the experiments that they've done on that have been done to varying degrees of success, and what they've done so far doesn't show that it's been a good experience. And in particular, you have things like how many times has this been mentioned? You look far back at things like the rune value improvements, removing herbs, removing ore and bars, and you still have, stone spirits and salvage there. So,
Well,
Just
think
start dropping GP. I mean, at this stage, drop GP. I don't care, but raw materials should come from skilling. I mean, I love the idea of the stone spirits and that type of thing, and hopefully more wood spirits start coming out through bosses and things. They'll take magic logs off and replace them with magic wood spirits when they do these updates and things. But I'm sorry. Yes, PVM's got to be profitable, but you can't sort of cut off your nose to spite your face. I mean, you can't kill skilling.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, for real?
You've never heard cutting off your nose to spite your face?
No.
Chin, you're like the master of mixed idioms. How have you not heard that one?
I don't know. I never have.
But
I'm sure I'll hear some bastardized variant of it in the next few days.
Cut your face to get rid of your nose.
But yeah, I mean, you've got to look after your skilling community as well.
And I think they will, because they said one of the big findings that came from the survey is that there are a lot of skillers, and this is something Mod Jack said, is that social media is dominated by high-end players who are engaged with PVM and, to a lesser extent, lore, but skillers are the largest subgroup as per the survey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which is you too, based on how we conduct this podcast. That's the basket you guys fit into.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say, like, when you're thinking about value and skill value and bringing that up, I think it's, yes, I don't think that raw materials necessarily should come from a drop table. That being said, I almost feel like this is something that you address going forward. I don't know how much you can do going backwards. And what I mean by that is, it seems to me that new skilling methods and techniques work the best when it's like a new ecosystem that comes out. And when you do that, there's this intrinsic value in the system.
Right.
Like, it almost kind of protects it in a way.
Like, remember how good of a sink the fort was for sinking logs out of the economy?
Yeah. But
and to be fair,
there's a lot of
elders are
examples.
elders are still really good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the accidental fire making and fletching is a great example.
Right, but the PVM community and the Iron Man community said that
before
these are
they
too expensive or too
up,
difficult to make.
Right, but before then, that was a perfect example. Like, in fact, the only thing that the only thing that screwed that was they were best in slot at the time. If they had been 2 levels,
Well, they still are. You still use full arrows unless you're wanting to get sweaty.
well, yeah. But that's why there was such a demand that they had. Oh, we can't let the skillers make money. We have to increase the
Right.
number.
So the question is, if this survey had come out, would they have made these changes a year and a half ago?
And again,
that's an interesting question. Yeah.
On Tannis's point there, where he says we can't let skillers make money, it wasn't that fact. It was the fact that the Iron community was whinging about how long it was taking them to make.
Right, and to be fair,
yeah.
there was no other good ammunition at that tier, hence why the need was felt to make it simpler. I talked to many Iron Men on that file, and I know what their pain was.
And range was the meta at the time, right? That's what it had to be.
But still, I mean, they chose to be Iron Man. They've got to, that is the best in slot. It's going to take you a long time. You don't want to do that. Get yourself a couple of crossbows and just make the what's it called arrows that you were running around, the Bell Criminal bolts. They were easy to make. They were second best.
Oh, but they're not as good.
That's right. But hey, if you want best in slot, you have to work for it. And if you choose not to just play a normal account and buy them, then you've got to go through the pain of making them. And I'm sorry. I mean, that was one reason why I quit my Iron Man, because I watered everything down so much that it just wasn't really the same challenge anymore.
Right. They also say that through this and through the survey, they now see skilling to be particularly about leveling. So taking skills to 120 or releasing new skills was the only way people could have that leveling experience. Leveling a skill for the sake of it isn't necessarily enough. And that's why last week I turned off virtual levels on my character.
Really?
I did, yeah.
Huh. You will have a long road to convince me for something like that.
Well, it's just that I got. It's just that I
enjoy
it. It's just that I have 110 mining and smithing, and then soon to be 110 fletching, crafting, wood cutting, rune crafting to do. Oh, and I also have all the PVM I can be doing in the meantime, so it's not like I'm short on anything to do in game.
Yeah, but them golden boxes, baby. And then them golden boxes turn into golden columns.
I actually found that kind of annoying when I looked at them. So I never had that on. And there's just something pure about seeing a list of 99s, 110s, and 120s.
Yeah, it is really aesthetically pleasing.
I knew there was a reason I had you on the show this week, in addition to everything else.
Really? That's the reason?
Yeah, because I don't think anybody else can see that and see it like I do on that. That sometimes it's just how the list looks.
Oh, no, what have I done?
It's also as aesthetically pleasing when you just look down and see it all sitting at 120.
Yeah.
Other than obviously Invention, which throws it off with the 150, but hey.
I can't wait till I see that.
Aye. All right. Moving on to PVM. Combat achievements. In particular, Grandmaster combat achievements. These could be something like do every single boss, master the mechanics, master it from a toolkit perspective, things like time trials, and complete the encounter to perfection. And they say that Grandmaster won't be part of the comp cape. And I see your question there. I don't think they plan on it being part of Trimmed either.
Well, that's asinine.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you think that
Trimmed is trimmed?
Trim is trim.
Like,
yep.
swear to God.
Yep.
So to have a trimmed comp, you guys think that Grandmaster...
You have to do every piece of content in the entire fucking game. Yes.
Yep.
Trim is
no,
trim.
I agree. I mean, Trimmed is something I'm going for, but I would have no issue with that being on Trim because it's part of the game.
Okay, let me just tell you what an old school Grandmaster combat achievement looks like.
Is it part of the game?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care what it is.
It's to kill.
It doesn't matter.
One of theirs
It's
is
part of the game.
one of those.
If you want to trim, you have to do every part of the game.
One of theirs
It's not hard.
is to kill Zuck without equipping any ranged or magic weapons before wave 69.
Yep, that's fine.
Nice.
I'd never be able to do it, but hey, that's, if that's a challenge and part of the game, then not on comp for sure, but on actual trim, then yes.
Complete
welcome
Inferno
my world,
5 times.
motherfuckers.
So wait, so the three of you guys think that Grandmaster should be on trim?
Yep, and trimmed is something I'm going for, and I'm not a good PVMer, but if they introduce that into the game and that's part of it, then yes, the trimmed cape should be the most rarest thing in the game that only a few people can attain.
Yep.
If I don't have the skills to do it, I don't deserve to wear it. I have no
Yeah, like
issue
you
with
could
that
rename it
whatsoever.
like the ultimate nerd cape or whatever, right? Like the no life cape, right? Like you have to be freaking insane
A trim
to
cape,
get
I don't
to
care.
get the trim. Like nuts. You have went beyond the
Exactly.
pale.
It should be the type of thing that, is the rarest thing in game that only a few people can attain. I have no issue with that whatsoever, as long as it doesn't have stats that, outweigh sort of the cape that
Right,
most
and we've
people
moved past
get
that.
to think. Exactly. It's just a cosmetic cape to show I have completed every single thing in this game.
I did not anticipate
And, in order to do that, you have to complete everything in the game.
I did not anticipate this panel would be so vocal on that.
Really?
On what?
I don't
Having
think
to complete every piece of content in the game to get a cape that indicates that you've completed every piece of content in the game?
It is kind of.
I'm
What
also
kind
one
of
of those people
moron
who
would think something other than that?
I hate participation medals. You're first or you've lost. Simple.
I just want to, when I see
I
one
don't
of
think
these
these
capes, I want
achievements
to.
should be part of trim.
Trim,
Really?
Well, I
not
think you're a
normal comp,
weenie and
but
you need to
trimmed,
learn how
yes.
to get good.
But I'm not going for trim. That's the thing.
Okay, then why does it affect you?
Because I think I'm speaking for the wider community out there. People I know who have trimmed are not going to take kindly to having their trimmed comp cape taken away for Grandmaster
actually
Because
achievements.
they added
I have
more
to be good at
content to the
everything in
game
the
that they have to complete?
You mean I have to run 3 miles to get that to get the ribbon? No, just give it to me because I tried hard.
I mean, it kind of is. Yeah. I mean, when I see a trim cape, I want to be like, oh, there's somebody that came out of their room
exactly
for a while.
Yeah.
All right, community, let us know what you think about this. If you're on my side or if you're on their side.
If you're on Shane's side or if you're on the right side. You want to be a little bitch and have participation medals, or you want to actually work hard and do the stuff that you need to do? Sorry.
Shane, we need this guy on the show more. People won't hate on me as much.
He's been on for the past 6 weeks while Tanis has been on leave.
Well, there you go.
That's why we got over 1,000 views last week, because of me.
That's right. Sometimes you gotta just punch a kangaroo in the goddamn face, isn't that right?
No, never take on a kangaroo. Those things will gut you like there's no tomorrow.
But that's
we're
what
not
you were
giving you a participation trophy.
So basically, what you're saying, Tanis, is that
Get in there.
Is that you have felt this way from the skilling and combat side before. So if there's somebody who is a trim player who has this, you basically feel that it's fair to have the Grandmasters in there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. from there, we already talked about the Slayer creature. It'll be a new type of Scabarite that drops components for the Necromancy. Slayer helmet add-on. Maybe I'll do some Slayer. Maybe I'll go complete my Slayer helmet finally for this. Yeah, I have 120. My Slayer helmet's not completed.
Unbelievable. And you're talking about bloody trim capes.
The audacity, really.
Hey, but it probably shouldn't be on trim though, right, Shane?
What, the Slayer
Yeah, the
helmet?
It probably is
Yeah,
because I have
don't
comp
know.
without it.
I don't know, guys. Are we sure about that? It's part of the game. Are you sure he has to complete it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard though. I mean, it kind of takes a long time.
And effort, and like having to complete all parts of the game.
You may even have to do something you didn't like.
My God.
We also got the fourth Conjure, the Phantom Guardian. It's going to be more defensive based. We already talked a bit more about that. And they want to, heading into next year, focus on creating some really hard encounters that are great for top-tier PVM players. Because in most cases, once you learn how to do a thing, it's no longer hard. So the idea with this is that they could add an ultra-hard mode at release so that for the first week or so, you have something that's truly astounding. And the example given was, imagine if Zamorak, for example, had been released at 2,000% in Rage, and it was like that for the first week and a bit, then got easier. From the notes, Lemon said that this could help create hype at launch and build around RuneScape into, becoming more of a stream-friendly game, similar to how Inferno was when they released that on Old School. So... But there's also talk about maybe an aura.
They're just going to make it easier
rework.
until people can do it, huh? Is that how that's going to go? Is this the new RuneScape?
Well, no, they want to make it harder for the first week and then make it easier.
But then we're going to make it easier.
So normal people can't play it.
No, so like the example given is that it would launch at 2,000%
Well, you
in
don't
Rage.
just want a participation trophy for your efforts, do you?
And then like
Yeah.
0 and 100 would be available after. Oh, you guys are just being facetious. Never mind. Never mind. That's typical in RSBANDB
longer
history.
than I expected.
All right. Well, that's what's to come. I believe at this point we could just look at some brief patch notes for this week before we get into what we've been up to. Yikes! I didn't anticipate that to get that heated there at the end.
Well, it's your fault for being wrong.
I think I'm with the bulk of the community.
You probably
Well,
are,
they
Shane.
might
To be
be.
fair, you
It's
probably
wrong.
are. Yeah. That doesn't mean they're right. I mean, sometimes the
Just 'cause-
majority can be wrong, but
Exactly.
Last week for mining and smithing, they increased the hit points of shooting stars to assist players when mining for the metallic meteorite fragment. And they say, although the initial surge of people mining for the fragment has abated, they plan to maintain the hotfix this week and revert it back to its original values next week to allow players once again to engage with the D&D and fragment as intended.
I have to laugh at this one because there were people complaining how long it was, because I play obviously during Australian times when there's not that many people on, and there was a size 9 star out there that they didn't finish in time.
Because of the hotfix.
2 hours because of the hotfix. There's only 3 of them working on it, 2 or 3 of them working on it, and it was a size 9 star, and it didn't get finished because of the hotfix.
Yikes. And for Earth, what this is about is that to make the new level 100 pickaxe, you need to get a item from a shooting star.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to find the tab. Hold on.
Fair enough.
You have... Where the hell is it?
They also fixed an
There it
issue
is.
with make-X smithing that occurred with stackable items where they would automatically drop to the ground to become unusable objects when attempting to smith them.
oops. Oopsie.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but that's funny.
Yeah.
What is?
Just the stuff up in the smithing now. You can just click make X rather than have to right click to make each individual one. So you can do a whole inventory and just AFK it. But
Yeah.
apparently with the make X, if you said make 28, but you had a slot filled with your auto heater, one of them would drop to the floor, and then you couldn't pick it up and use it to continue it on.
Womp womp.
Yeah.
They have also fixed an issue where some primal armor items could not be repaired with primal bars on an anvil. So you can repair them that way.
Yes.
Okay. Also fixed an issue where the primal two-handed sword +5 required the incorrect amount of bars, and this was leading to some confusion I saw on the wiki, so they got that to the right numbers now. Ingredients used to make the pickaxe of life and death are now always protected on death. Good.
Yeah, that's good.
After you, spend all that time at the shooting stars.
Mm-hmm.
Mining at Croesus now gives appropriate XP between levels 100 and 110. Also, protein bars and unstable protein bars now give appropriate XP at
Protein bars?
Yeah, how would you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Protein?
Oh, okay. At levels 100 to 110.
Protein?
I've always said it protein. How do you guys say it?
I've always said protein too, but Earth's probably
I've
right.
I've said protein, but I've heard it both ways. So protein bars sounds funny, but yeah, they the protein. I mean, it's 50-50 in the community. Listen, some of the even the mods, some say protein, some say protein.
I mean, just protein bar is hilarious.
Yeah, that's
and
why
I accept
call
that as a pronunciation, but for the rest
Yeah.
of them, it's protein.
Yeah.
Well, what about protein?
Yeah, protein
proteins?
logs.
What about what?
Proteins.
Mm,
The food.
yeah, it's a food.
Yeah. Mining and smithing at the clan citadel also gives appropriate XP for levels 100 to 110, and bonus XP in mining and smithing from the citadel quartermaster now also gives appropriate XP there. And finally, Buggy Mush and Mushy Mush now have separate models and are easily differentiated. There's the patch notes for the week, everybody. Pretty neat that there was only a small amount of bugs with that update when that launched. Always good to see that at the end of it all. All right. What have we been up to in RS? Who wants to go first here? Tennis, Earth, Burn.
I mean, I did Necromancy and Slayer during double XP, but other than that, I've mostly been playing Baldur's Gate 3. I finally got that.
Oh, that explains the absence then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. How close are you to 120?
I think I hit 110. I can't remember.
No, that's a good number. Let
me check that out. I'm probably wrong. No, 108.
Okay, close enough.
Getting there.
Slowly
but surely.
How about you, Tanis?
Not a lot of RS lately. Just to kind of go backwards, did have a very very close family loss in the family, and then not long after, work went into overdrive, and I am experiencing the first product launch that I've ever been a part of, and it's crazy. But we have launched our latest eSite called eSite Go, and it's more, it's smaller, lighter, faster. It's all of the things more akin to actual glasses. It's not a halo design or anything. And we have been doing very well with it, which is great. On the other end, I'm very tired and haven't had a lot of game time to play.
That's really great to hear in terms of the product on that. And I think that we talked about the original before on the podcast, but this comes from your connection to accessibility, given the fact, of course, you played this game legally blind, so it makes sense that you found your way into a company that sells assistive devices.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it was a natural fit. But
That sounds awesome.
yeah, no, it's kind of a funny story. I tried it, and I couldn't even. It was so expensive at the time. Like I couldn't afford it, and I crowdfunded. But that allowed me to be able to work enough that when the next version came out, I was able to purchase it. Having that allowed me to learn it well enough that I was able to get hired there. And then the rest has kind of been history. But it is kind of, I always think it's cool that the device itself allowed me to kind of, work and uh, make my own money, to be able to buy the next one, kind of thing. Just cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. And I know that we here at the podcast typically do like to bring that focus to accessibility, and I think it's important that we do that. And for a lot of the time that we just talk about it, we don't necessarily get into the history of it and why we do that. So I think what I'll do for that is I'll throw a link in the show notes to that if anybody wants to see what this one is about. But it's been going well so far then.
Yeah, it's going extremely well. Like I said, this device is very user friendly. It's very intuitive, the most intuitive to date, and I'm having a lot of really good demos. Before I spent a lot of time, training, getting it set, getting the devices just right for people, and now we're just hitting the ground running, talking about, okay, how do I use it to read? How do I do this? How do I watch? How do I watch my favorite sports? Which is awesome to just get right in there and start with those kinds of training. It's a lot of fun.
Nice. All right. And how is it in terms of just evolution? Because I remember we had discussions before about HDMI connections and what you can do with it gaming wise, computer wise. So just evolution on that, or any big things?
The evolutions have really been in basically in its power management, the form factor, and then
that's big power.
Yeah, and but on a software side, I think the biggest development has been motion stabilization. As if you're familiar with magnification, as things magnify, they get
every
shaky.
Little movement is magnified too.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, a lot of our clients are elderly, and so they're using a lot of magnification, but they're also experiencing a lot of movement. So the camera stabilization that was developed and brought into the Go is a real game changer. Like, just for me, anecdotally, I can use a little bit less of a zoom level because of the camera stabilization than the previous model that I had to use a little bit more because it would be bouncing around on me and stuff. So yeah,
like that's
so,
interesting. Like if I just sit here looking at the screen, I know my head is moving, but it's not a problem for me. Whereas if it was a camera based, it definitely would be. Thinking about it from that angle. All right, sounds good. Parnassius, what have you been up to this week? Mining, smithing, anything else?
No, done all that because my mining was already 200 mil. Basically got everything to between 198 and 199 mil, except I still had attack and
Oh, so you're going
strength.
for the stretch.
Yep, so got those up to 199, and at the moment it's only necromancy. So I've just really been AFKing the abyssal beasts in the wilderness.
Yep.
Getting that up to, well, I'm at 179 mil now, so should have the sort of 199 by the end of the weekend.
Like we
Monday,
discounted, but that abyssal wilderness necromancy training is no slouch.
Oh, 2k a kill.
great.
Yeah, nice and easy. And yeah, basically once that's done, we'll just do the final run to 200 mil all.
And then we'll read it out on the podcast.
Yeah.
As for me this week, I went back to the Sanctum. It took a while to shake the rust off. Amazing how you lose the movement stuff in the first week and a bit after you don't do it. But I'm actually at a point now where if I wanted to, I could probably farm out the hard mode Nikatra kills with no problem. So that's a big step up from where we were at on launch week, I think, where I had just
Very
barely
nice.
got the first hard mode kill there. So that was interesting. And then, just figuring out where else I can go PVM wise with that after the fact. I might go for Time Weaver title at some point from Carapac.
I mean, if you can handle hard mode on Nikatra, I mean that's fairly high level. So
Yeah.
you'd be up at pretty much most bosses now.
Yeah, but aside from that, on
Golden
the old...
Reaper.
No, I'm not going that crazy. I'm not doing the Grandmaster achievements when they come out.
Coward.
You say that, but I don't see you lining up to do any of them.
Yeah.
So if you
that's why you don't want it untrimmed. Got it.
No, I have no plan to go for trimmed. Let me be on that.
No.
But on old school, this past weekend we did Beneath Cursed Sands, the penultimate quest in their Desert Questline series as well. That was a good one if anybody has the ability to go over there onto old school and do that. But as Parnassius is very fond of saying, I have the horseshoe, right? Like the luck horseshoe.
You do. Wedged right up there.
I got the old school farming pet at level 80 farming from a Toadflax.
Rarest pet on old school, I believe.
It is the rarest pet on old school.
That's an old school?
Yeah.
God damn.
Would you care to guess what the drop rate is?
The worst thing.
Would you care to guess what the drop rate was?
1 in 5K.
No, 1 in 91,764.
Holy son of a...
The horseshoe is back, people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it ever really left. It just, it was just repowering back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just doing a casual herb run of Toadflax, and it popped into my inventory. So, sorry, not sorry. Anyways, let's do some achievements there. Earth, start us off.
So Highcliff got 200 mil agility. Dat Engineer got 120 defense, and Scark Row got 99 necromancy.
Nicely done. Then we have Chilbura 2 with 120 mining on the 16th, Dumb Dragon with 99 prayer on the 16th, and Luke Totodile with 120 smithing on the 16th.
And then moving to August 15th, we've got Pero Picanti with 99 Slayer and Ultra Dog 177 with 99 Rune Crafting. Congratulations all.
Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done. I also figured that's, since it's 1,000, I would do a pick of the week this week. And I don't necessarily know what...
Hang on, before you do, just
Okay.
everyone, take a second, guess exactly what Shane's going to choose. Okay, go.
The pick of the week this week is Star Trek Prodigy Season 2.
What? Never would have guessed you would have gone with Star Trek, Shane.
Well, the reason I wanted to bring this one up as pick of the week is because, well, for a number of reasons.
It's Star Trek, we know.
Well, kind of, but the series was canceled by Paramount. Netflix picked it up and brought Season 2 to air. So there's that angle of it. There's also the fact that it is marketed as the kids' show, the Star Trek kids' show
I was gonna say, it's a
from
cartoon.
Nickelodeon.
What?
Nickelodeon. But the reality of it is that if you compare this Season 2 to any of the other Season 2s of the modern Star Trek series, this one's probably the best one so far, in that it encompasses everything that everybody likes about how traditional Star Trek feels with the modern current lens on it. It's also got, of course, guest stars of Kate Mulgrew as Admiral Janeway, Robert Beltran as Captain Chakotay, and Robert Picardo as the Doctor in Season 2, in addition to everybody that we met in Season 1. There's also, and I'm not going to spoil this one for folks who want to watch the series, I don't know, Tanis, did you watch much of Season 1 of Prodigy?
No, I hadn't.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil who else is in it, but there's a very key actor from the rest of Star Trek in this one that really ties up that character's story quite nicely in relation to it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And, I feel like if you liked the modern stuff like Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Picard, like we've talked about before on the podcast, Tanis, I think Prodigy would be a good thing for you as well. But I also think for the people who haven't watched those, like you yourself, Earth.
Is Jeffrey Combs in it?
No, he is not in this one.
It's not real Star Trek.
He's in Lower Decks.
That is real Star Trek.
But it's got a really compelling story to it. And
Oh, wait, no, that means Enterprises. Shit.
Enterprise is getting a lot of fans in this day and age, believe it or not. I know that's a controversial opinion amongst some, but
Captain Aw Shucks, we waterboarded the Zindi or whatever.
But the point behind this is that it's marketed as a kids show, but it's got probably some of the best Star Trek since, Deep Space Nine and the Next Generation stuff in terms of actual, episode per episode Star Trek. So that's the pick of the week, Star Trek Prodigy. You can find it on Netflix if you're in the US and most of the world. I think it just premiered on some service in the EU, but I don't exactly know where that is. I know where the EU is, but I don't know where you're going to find this show.
You can tell how much Shane talks to me, because I was about to jump all over that.
Yeah, to catch myself there for that, but would definitely recommend that to everybody here on the panel here if you have any interest in that at all. So give it a go. I'm talking to specifically two of you here right now.
I'm surprised that you've recommended a cartoon.
It's good.
It's Star Trek.
Just know that I didn't outright recommend Lower Decks, the Rick and Morty Star Trek version. That one's good too, but that's a different audience. Got to be in on the in-jokes on that one. It's fan service to the nth degree, but that's pick of the week. And normally we'd end the show right here, but I have a few prepared remarks about episode 1000 before we depart here. Typically when you say, and this is something I'll bring up because I know you mentioned this at the top of the show, Earth, you say you have prepared remarks. It's like you're preparing to deliver a eulogy or something, but I can guarantee that we're not, doing that right now. I'd just like to take everybody back to episode 1, which launched on June 12th, 2005. And on that episode, we discussed the new seeds and farming equipment for the farming skill that would launch in the following month. We also discussed a new Saradomin-themed quest that was on the way later on that month, which, of course, was the Temple Knights series. And we also discussed ideas about what construction and carpentry might look like. And we did this in a very rough, round-the-edge manner. And I'll, for anybody who wants to go listen to these old episodes, I'll throw a link in the show notes to the old archives for that where you can find these. I did have an idea that I might try and remaster episode 1 to make it a little bit more listenable with, how our current audio stack works. But unfortunately, I didn't have the actual individual track recordings left over from that. So that's unfortunately not going to happen for that. But what I will say is that normally at the end of the show, we play the closeout and credit music and whatnot. But stick around for that. The RR man has put together a nice little montage from episode 1 that you can hear in the post credits, just to get a little bit of a glimpse about what updates sounded like back then. But we've discussed everything here at this show. We've discussed the old school era. We had RuneScape HD. We had the rise of RS3 with EOC and the new interface system. I'm rattling these things off, and you guys probably know where you came into the equation here. But we also had things like the Sixth Age, modern RuneScape, which I pegged to have started somewhere around 2017-ish, the Elder God Wars, and of course where we're at today. And we have had a lot of people come through these doors here to serve as co-hosts. Some you know, some you might not know. And I think this is the full list of everybody who was official co-host here on the podcast. I'm sure Earth here will fill me in if I miss somebody. But we've had Pika, Brad, Chief Snake Brad, otherwise just known as Chief Snake, Trekkie, Earth, Colton, Dave, Mr. Bistro, Sirion, and Tanis. That's been the run that we've had so far for this. And of course, it wouldn't have been possible without you guys, the listeners. So big, huge thank you to you guys on that. Do any of you guys have any remarks on this about when you first started listening, or if you ever imagined you would be a part of such a thing? I'm just going to go down the list. Let's start with you, Earth, because I think you're the oldest one here.
Well, I started as soon as you put it on iTunes, I think. Which wasn't until about, episode 50, 60?
Yeah, it was about 55.
Damn, I remembered that very well. Shit. And now I never knew I'd end up being a part of it, much less, 945 episodes later.
It certainly is something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember your questions back in the day, too.
Yeah, when you hated me.
No, I never did. I never did.
Revisionist history. I know who I was at that age.
Maybe. We might have to go back to that, but yeah. He asked a question at one point, Shane, why do you hate me? When we did questions.
He never did answer.
Because I didn't.
And a bromance was born.
Let's not go that far.
Or something. I could never take him away from Sirion.
Oh God, Tanis, when did you start listening?
I started, so funny enough, this is probably like maybe the third or fourth podcast I listened to in general. So right when I first started listening to podcasts is when I started listening to RSBANDB. So it might have been 2010, 11, somewhere around there. It was like Joe Rogan, The History of Rome, and RSBANDB Update.
Well, one of those has fallen far from grace so far in terms of host, right?
Well, no, but
Is
you
that
know,
the like caveman guy? Or he brings guests on his show and he's like, "What? You can do that?"
That's not a bad impression, but yeah, I mean, essentially. So yeah, it was about that area. It's about that time. 2012 with RS3 is when or it might have been 2013.
That's
It
when
was
the
at the end
party
of
really
2012,
got lit, right?
When 2013, yeah, because that's when I started
Please
writing.
never say that again.
And was affiliated. And then you had there was like was it half a year, quarter of a year? Where people did like a month.
Yeah, that was the chaotic
Another
year of
month.
2016. That was the Colton Dave Bistro,
Yep.
Sirion and Tanis bit, where you guys all had a bit involved in there, and you know, I think you picked it up based on what I'm looking at here in the list here. You picked up the show permanently in May 2017, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yep. That sounds correct.
Hey, summer
But
2017, right?
Yeah. I would be remiss. Yeah, nothing was going on then, was there?
No, remember June 2017? You got that one
Yep.
right off the bat, Metaphos.
Yep, sure did. But I have to give you credit, Shane. Much to Earth's chagrin. 1,000 episodes is no easy task.
Oh, I've had
I've
had silent doubts a few times in the history of this show.
I'm sure you have. There's not a lot of podcasts out there that have 1,000 episodes. 1,000 weekly episodes.
Well, to be fair, we did miss a few
know?
weeks from when I was sick a few times.
Okay,
Shane, like twice.
but it's nearly
was in the
20
early
years
days.
worth. Like,
You get a couple days off.
Yeah, and I think we
yeah.
took a break at the start of 2017 before Invention came out. Or was that 2016? One of those years before Invention came out, we took a
that
break.
1 year, yeah.
Yeah.
Just take the compliment that your dogged determination is the backbone that has kept RSBANDB going this whole time.
I'll take that as a
And we're
compliment
thankful.
because look, there's really three rules for a podcast to be successful. I don't talk about how you make podcasts much because in general, I don't think it's something the listeners are overall that interested in. But there's 3 rules that make a successful podcast. Number 1, consistency. You have to be consistent. You have to have a consistent schedule, whether that be weekly, twice a week, once a month. You have to be consistent, and you have to live up to that. You have to tell your listeners about it. And if you're not going to make the schedule, tell them why you're not going to make the schedule. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is that you need good audio quality amongst everything else. That's why this show is still audio first. We've, experimented with video a few times, and it's fun to do. It's neat to do, right? But we've always felt that the video takes away from the audio side of it. And the show has to be audio first. That also, I think, is what makes a good podcast. And the third one, it comes down to content. In that, if you're not going to be willing to go out there and discuss the week-to-week news or whatever it might be in an open and genuine way with what you feel and what you think. Why are you doing it? I don't see podcasts as the medium or the method of media where you go out there and you put on a show and like we were talking about earlier, entice rage in your viewers. That's more of a YouTube or TikTok kind of thing. I don't see podcasts for that. And that's why we're so, I want to say, grounded. And, you could feel free to say otherwise if you think we're not grounded or we're not genuine in that regard. But that's why we don't jump up and down and we don't, rage bait. We don't sensationalize things here as well. I think we get enough of that in the day-to-day, news, the media world, and just, the social media feeds that we're on in general for that. So I think those are the three things that make podcasts successful or not in that regard. But Pern, when did you start listening?
Early 2011. Chief Snake was sort of coming to the end of his run. It sort of got the Chief Snake and then sort of moved into Trekkie and onwards. Basically I started playing. I got introduced to the game, started playing. Podcast was sort of a new thing to me back then, so I thought, hey, let's look what's out there. And there was a few at the time, but yeah, this was the one. And as you said, we can get passionate about things and such, but it's always been level-headed and constructive criticism that come from it.
Exactly.
We had Earth for those moments to stir you up and bring a bit of comedy to it and such, but it's always been that constructive, non-sensationalist type
right
show.
Because if you
it.
wanted to do that, you would just go look at YouTube or Reddit, right?
Exactly.
And I realize we are probably missing out on a portion of the people on YouTube by not sensationalizing a bit, but I don't want to do that, right? So
no. We've got to stick to the brand that we like, and and that's why you've been here 1,000 episodes, because you do stick to that. And yeah, if you had told me back in the early days you'll be co-hosting as a guest one day, I would have laughed at you.
I think the three of you would have had the exact same reaction.
Yeah. I mean, even the first time sending questions in, that was audio questions.
And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize about the show is we have a very open door to policy on this, to the point of the help wanted form, right? That if you fill that out and you take part in that and you take part in the community, eventually you're going to wind up on the show as a guest. And if you do a good job, well, lo and behold, look where you can end up, kind of thing, right? So...
Mm-hmm.
I asked Tanis about, your 2017 when you started in the dreaded Menaphos, but I would just wonder before we wrap this up, Earth, do you have any comments on 2015 and your year?
So when we did a while back, I don't remember if it's a bit or like I don't remember why, but we did like a reflection of all of RS, right? Maybe it's the 20th anniversary?
I think it was the year tier list. We rated all the years on a tier list of RS.
Yeah.
So, am I mistaken in remembering that the year I was co-host was basically the most boring year ever?
We got the aquarium and Mazcab raids in Tuska.
That's what we needed at the time.
Yeah, it
needed
wasn't a good one.
To keep us laughing because the game was making us cry.
Oh, that was also the year of waterfall fishing and the Lord of Vampirium.
Oh boy, is Lord of Vampirium the one that I literally fell asleep while streaming?
It might be.
Like, I'm not kidding. Probably the lowest year in the past, in the time of the podcast, I guess.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing.
I also got really burnt out on doing this every week, I
Right,
admit. So that might have had something to do
but there
with
was
it.
also the thing with that is that after you finished, I had no idea what to do. And I think it was either you or Patrick who said, rather than choosing one co-host for 2016, just rotate everybody out. Grab a bunch of people and do that. Was that you or was that Patrick?
Probably both.
Okay. But for what it's worth, we are, of course, looking always at the past history of RSBANDB Update and where we've been and what the podcast can become going forward. And a lot of that, of course, comes down to the feedback from you, the listeners, and, of course, what we have in terms of week-to-week content, which I know we were struggling with at the start of the year here. We don't talk about that enough, I don't think. We don't talk about the fact that it was like, are we going to have to stretch for more content? Are we going to have to air an old monthly bit? Are we going to have to do a monthly bit light? Tanis, you remember those discussions.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why the linkage between the game updates and the podcast, when one is doing well, the other does well. That is, when the game updates are doing well and Jagex is doing well, there's just a much bigger energy around that. And it's baffling to think how we started off the year and where we're at right now. Fingers crossed that everything is going to continue and be fine going forward, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think that's all I want to say. That pretty much brings me to the end of my prepared remarks. Does anybody have anything else?
No, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved over the years, because it has been a great show. It has been a mainstay. It has been that show. Sometimes, you don't feel like reading things, or, you get little hints and such when you're talking about them, patch notes you might have missed, things like that. It's been a great show. You've had mods as guests on, which they're always my favorite ones to sort of get behind the scenes with those mods. It's, it is really, great. 1,000 episodes, as I said, and Shane has been with it all the way through. Even when he went on holidays, he'd organise Earth and Tanis to take over and do a couple of episodes and things like that. Yeah, we've always had content.
Wasn't that a train wreck you were saying, one of you?
I like that one.
Okay.
Which one?
Which one was the train wreck that you were involved in?
Me?
Yeah.
All of the ones you had me record. The first one I was on DSL, and it would take literally a day to upload the podcast. So Mike had to do it from his recording. And then the second one, a friend had an emergency and I had to leave like midway through the show.
Yeah, but I mean...
But last year's went okay, didn't it?
Did we do one last
year?
Yeah,
around this time,
actually.
We did,
didn't we?
I think it went fine.
You went off for your trip in the mountains.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that one went okay.
Well, if anything, that means we need to increase the bus index of this podcast.
What does that mean?
The bus survival index, so that if main person gets hit by a bus, there's always a way to continue on.
Shane, I say this with... I don't even know what, but it could not be update without you.
No.
Well...
So don't get hit by a bus, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
All right.
Shane is RSBANDB.
All right, fair enough.
Because I'd have to do the final episode and deliver a eulogy, I assume. So
I
feel like that's probably my duty. So
yikes.
And
me and Mike.
That. Nobody deserves that.
Well, what a morbid note
so
to
don't
end
get
that
hit
on.
by a bus, dude.
Or a moose. Probably more likely a moose.
Got a real morbid turn all of a sudden.
Yeah. Well, with
And on that note, people,
we'll be back next week for episode 1001. If you want it delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. We're on all the podcast listening services out there. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Casts, and more, which, back in the day, we didn't think podcasts were going to be a long-term thing, so we waited a year before putting it on iTunes. But lo and behold, here we are. Also on YouTube now, youtube.com/RSBANDB. And, of course, big, huge thank you to our listeners for carrying us through 1,000. But also, Tanis, so good to have you back.
Thank you, Sean. Good to be back.
And, of course, to Pernasius and Earth for appearing on this episode 1000.
thank you very much for the invite. It has been an honor to be here.
Rightio. Well,
Same.
we'll see you guys next week for another
Y'all
one.
later.
See you then. Take care.
Happy skating
ya.
all.
Bye.
This is RSBANDB Update, episode number 1. Recorded June 11th, distributed June 12th.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. From the high desert, this is the world-famous RSBANDB Update. This is Pika69 with your friend Shane12088.
Hello there.
Okay, for our first topic, we're going to go with the seeds and farming equipment for the new RuneScape updates.
We don't even know what these seeds are going to do, like what they're going to be worth when the farming initially comes out. So I'm just hold on to mine. Well, I haven't actually got any eggs, but I don't see how eggs would fit into farming. Do you? As they mentioned housing later this year.
Hopefully there's bank space at the new house, and
Yes.
Didn't they say something about Zaro's quest or something?
Yeah.
Like that? Because who cares
I
about
think,
Zaro?
well, the ancient staff that you get from Desert Treasure does look like the Zaro symbol, but it's the wrong color. For anybody that follows Zaros, the colors for that are yellow. Well, this month RSBANDB we're growing as constantly, and this month's the main new feature is the RSBANDB Update podcast, which for some reason is called a podcast, but it probably won't be a podcast. Windows XP and all that and other crap. Paulina Minvich or something like that. It's the South Desert town. There are noobs out there and there are noobs out there. Now here's a translation of noobish. La la la. And check for where is STFUU. If you're a noob, go to hell. Well, on that note, this has been the first episode of RSBANDB Update, the first ever RuneScape radio podcast, whatever you want to call it, show that I know of or we know of. So, hope you listen again next week. Toodaloo.
Okay, yeah, guys, don't mind if it's kind of low on quality entertainment. We need more practice here. It'll get better in time. See you guys later.
Yeah, see ya.